Hello, everyone. So I just want to go over a couple of things as we're finishing up this next week and this week, and as we're looking into the following week and what's to come for the rest of the term. So a couple of things here that I want to go over is if you notice, if you go into week two, you've all been finishing up. I know the argument exam should be finished up by the 27th. I know today is Sunday. I'm recording this. Um, Journal 3 and 4 are due, so make sure to do that. There'll only be one more. I'm actually going to lower that, so it's going to be one journal is going to be remaining, and then you'll have two quick takes, and then that'll be it in terms of the short form video responses. So I'm actually going to be cutting those down. Uh, the other thing I also want to announce, and I'll make another video as well, like going over this, is I'm not going to be having presentations. The calendar and the way everything is, because it's so truncated, we just don't have enough time. So I know if you've noticed that there's a presentation requirement in the syllabus, I'm actually going to get rid of that. So we will not be having presentations. I'm sure some of you will love that news. So other thing I want to mention is as we go into the next week, you'll notice right here, we're going into journal articles. So as you're finishing up your hot newspaper, which as you know, you should be turning in tomorrow, or if you're watching this on Monday today, um, your hot newspaper is again looking at the same story over 3 different news outlets. So if it's, the Supreme Court, made a decision on DACA on this particular day, you're looking at that particular story and how it was covered in 3 different news outlets, one from mainstream, one from WebSource, one from international, from from each of those 3 buckets. The one thing that I noticed, and a lot of you probably saw in your comments when you submitted your papers, is that you're going to have that it was related to your topic, but the articles, all 3 of them weren't related to the same story. So keep that in mind, that related to your topic is, you can keep those for your final, but specifically for the purpose of the hot newspaper, you want to be doing that all on the same exact story, because we're doing kind of a lab, kind of an experiment looking at this. So that's something I want you to keep in mind. And then if you go on down with your hot newspaper, once that's done, the next thing we're going to be looking at is doing the journal article analysis. And so to describe the journal article analysis is that you're basically just doing a content analysis of what is inside one scholarly journal article. And there are requirements for what constitutes a scholarly journal article. And then so I'm requiring you to actually go through the Coyote database through the library website in order to find a scholarly, peer-reviewed journal article. Now, how might I figure that out, you ask? Well, I happen to actually go through a lecture that goes through how to go through journal article research, how to use the database, how to use the proper search terms, how to use the advanced search to kind of narrow your search. That way it saves you a lot of time. That way you're not having to dig for stuff that maybe isn't relevant or isn't available. And I show you like making sure to download the PDFs, because the PDFs have page numbers. That's going to help you immensely in citations, because remember, you do need to include the page number in your parenthetical citation if you're using APA. In Chicago, it's always going to require you in your footnote. But that's something that I want you to keep in mind. The other thing I want you to keep in mind is I actually have a couple of things for you. So the database research, this is kind of a truncated version. After you've seen the journal article analysis or journal article research tips, this is actually just some quick tips on using the actual database. And so it's a fun little video. It's just a few minutes that'll show you some basic tips just as a reminder. The actual prompt is here for what's required of you in the journal article analysis, and what are some of the questions that are asked. And some of these questions could be not applicable, or for instance, what kind of data or evidence does the author use to support their thesis? Well, show what is it that the author or authors are using. Demonstrate that. Don't just say, well, they covered a couple of things. Be specific. One of the few things that I find really as a pitfall is that students often aren't specific enough. And the thing is, all you have to do is, you don't need to write a long paragraph being specific. As they showed, the authors gave data that showed that gun violence increased after the assault weapons ban was repealed. And the next thing you say is they demonstrated this by looking from 2007 to 2012 and looking at the increase in gun deaths over the past 5 to 7 years, and looking at there was a dramatic increase or something like that. All you need is an extra sentence or two to just basically explain what you're talking about. You kind of want to think of it as a funnel where you give a general idea and then you narrow it down with some detail so it's pinpoint accurate, and people just kind of understand. You don't need to overdo it when it comes to being detailed. What I mean by being detailed and being specific is, if you say, well, yeah, they show data, well, how? Like, what kind of data? And you just need to have a sentence or two to just explain what you're talking about and then move on. That's what I mean by being detailed. You'll notice that I actually provide a guide, just like I did with the hot newspaper. And the cool thing is if you go back, I actually provide that, and I provide that form also as a PDF. So the journal article analysis guide, this is, what should be in the paper, what should you be covering, what are the goals of the paper, and what should you not be doing. The next thing I want you to take a look at is, I actually have an example outline. This is from a student who is doing something about bodybuilding supplements. So this is kind of a breakdown of how the kind of structure of the paper looks like, how you should be organizing things. And then to go even one further, I actually also provide an example paper so you can kind of give an idea of what it should look like for the journal article analysis. So that's what's going to be going on in week 3. Other things that I should note in week 3 that are not yet posted that will unlock tomorrow. There will be 2 quick takes, one on heavy metal and one on Prince's obituary. Prince, the singer. Those 2 are related. So I'd like you to watch both of those and give the quick takes for them. There's also going to be Journal 5 that is not available, that is going to be available tomorrow. It unlocks. And that will be the last video journal that you have to do. And then the other thing that you're going to look at is, just like how you did the hot news where you submitted the articles that you were thinking of using, I'm going to do the same thing with the journal article analysis. And so that's going to be due on Wednesday going into Thursday. And so that way I can give you like a thumbs up or thumbs down on your journals, on your journal articles before you start writing the paper. I do this as kind of like a stopgap. So you're not, doing all this work and then find out, oh, wait a minute, I wasn't using the right journal to begin with. And remember, the journal article should be related to your controversial topic. I want you to be able to use the research that you're using for your hot news and the research that you're using for your journal article analysis for your final. Like, I want you to have all these sources built up so that by the time you get to the final in a week and a half, you're done. Like, you already have your research. You're just putting together the paper as a kind of a collective review. That way you don't have to be doing more work at the end. The other thing that I want you to look at that's going to be there is the actual submission for the journal article analysis paper. And as you'll notice, the journal article analysis paper is going to be due on August 1st. That'll be Sunday, August 1st. So that will be in 1 week. So I want you to keep an eye on that. and make sure that you're doing that. So I would encourage you, if you've already done your hot newspaper and turned it in, I would encourage you to start working on the research. That's going to be the big thing for this week, is finding your research, submitting that form, and then hitting the ground running, writing the paper. So I'm giving you till Wednesday to turn in the Thursday to turn in the form. I really would encourage you to take care of those earlier. That way I can just give you an approval, tell you which one to do, and then tell you what I think is the best journal for you to review, for you to do the journal article analysis on, and then go for it. It's not a hard paper. It's really just kind of a content review, basically what was in it. You read it and then write a paper of what was in it. It's really that simple. It's just how we're looking at it is the kind of the purpose of doing it. Is like, it's not just like, oh, this was what was in it, but more of like, how are we observing it? How are we looking at different kind of critiques of it? How are we analyzing it? What's missing? How can we use this in research? And so those are the kind of questions I'm asking that kind of have you kind of, work your brain a bit. So you should be expecting those pop up by tomorrow morning. If you're watching this on Monday, that would be today. So these should already be, you should see more here already. As a result, I've already added the annotated bibliography, so you can already kind of get an idea of how your annotated bibliography should look. This is all of the resources that you're planning on using for your final. And you're just making a quick bibliography with a short summary. And you're doing that for your 10 sources. So you'll have 10 sources, as you've noticed, 5 newspapers, 5 journal articles minimum. I've already forced you to turn in 3 newspapers, and by this coming week, 3 journal articles. So you'll be able to you've got 6, you already need to find 4 more if you haven't found that already. As you noticed in my lectures beforehand, I am encouraging you to save whatever you find that you don't necessarily use for the one particular paper, but is still relevant. It's just not, right what you needed for the particular paper. Save all of that stuff, because it's going to help you in the long run. And so that's going to be one of the big things that's going on. The other thing that I want to mention is the outline is also going to be due in week 4. So the outline lecture is already up. You'll start seeing an outline prompt and submission there. I'm giving you just a heads up of what's going on, because now we're starting to do work that's going to be applicable towards the final itself. So I just want to give you a heads up of like what's coming up next. That way, even if you want to get a head start on it, or if you, or at least you can orient yourself in a way that you know what's coming next, so you know how to kind of plan for it. That's what I want you to be able to do, because we're getting, August 9th is going to come real quick. And so that's going to be what I want you to look at next. Other than that, if you haven't done the argument exam already, it's dead simple. There's even the exam outline. If you haven't noticed already, the outline for a lot of this is already here. I hope you guys noticed this, because this is the questions on the test. And so the thing that I would hope for you to do is to get the argument exam out of the way. It's not so much an exam as it is just a way to reinforce what I went over in the lecture, the fallacy workshop, just to get it into your head. You can take this 5 times and I take the highest score. So, and I did the exact same thing with the comma lecture. I mean, with the comma exam. By the way, if you haven't done the comma exam, or if you had a low score, if you want to go back and take it, just take it if you want to get a higher score. You can do it up to 5 times, and the highest grade is what's taken. Make sure that the news article packets are done, the hot newspaper resources, that's all done. You're going to do the exact same thing with the journal articles. You're going to have a packet that's going to go ahead and get submitted. And then as you notice, I'm pretty quick about me grading stuff when you turn it in. Almost like I get an alert the minute you guys turn something in, and I try to just grade it right then and there or give commentary to it. So the minute you send it, you'll probably get a response back pretty quickly. And so the sooner you do it, the sooner I can get it done. And so that's going to be the thing that's going to happen with the journal article analysis. All of this is going to be in the service of your final. And so just if we go back to the assignment flow chart, notice that the controversial research topic, this is what you chose. We just did the hot newspaper. You're turning that in. You've got at least 3 newspaper sources that you found. We're going to do the journal article analysis. I'm going to ask you to give me 3 journal article sources. You're only going to do the paper on 1. Now, the other thing I might want to mention is that you'll notice in the prompt for the journal article analysis that the paper that you're reading should be about 10 pages. That's the requirement for the paper you are reading. The paper you're writing, the actual paper that you're going to write and turn into me, is only 750 to 1,000 words. It's about 3 pages, 3.5 pages ish. The reason I have you pick a little bit of a 10 pages or more is just because it's hard to write a paper when it's like a 5-page journal article. You're going to be really struggling to kind of like condense stuff when it's already kind of short. That's why I encourage you to do a 10-page or more article to use. And so I really encourage you to do that. And then you'll see that you have a 10 source minimum. And then now you've already collected that. You have an annotated bibliography that we'll put together. You've already started to see that. You have an outline. Presentation is not going to happen. So we're just going to go straight from the annotated bibliography and outline to the final paper. And then you're going to get a follow-up video of like what exactly I'm expecting in the final paper. A great place to start is the outline, because the outline lecture is an outline of the final. So I really encourage you to take a look at that. Other than that, please feel free to email me or to put things in group discussion. And please make sure that you're watching this all the way through. I'm noticing that people are kind of watching the YouTube videos and then just kind of like not watching the rest of it. That is the digital equivalent of basically walking up and getting out of my class in the middle of the lecture. Like if we were sitting in an actual classroom, and if you just got up and left, that's the equivalent of not finishing watching the lecture. So just a heads up on that. I can see all of the data. I can see what's going on. When it comes to the end and we're like, teetering on things, I'm going to be looking at who actually like did the work and watched stuff and watched all the videos, watched the lectures, watched them completely. I have all that information. I have all those metrics and data. I turned all that stuff on, so I can see everything. So please do it, because if you come up to me and you're asking me a lot of questions that are like obviously in the video, I'm honestly going to be kind of annoyed. But so I hope you do that. I know this was a long lecture for a 20-minute update, but you don't really get to go into class, and I can't mandate like, specific meetings. So this is what you get. So hopefully everybody's doing well. If you have any questions, please email me and I'll be sure to get back to you. Take care.